Hey, Mustafa, how's it going?
Good, thank you.
Thanks so much for doing this. Yeah, so hey, my name's John Hammond. This is the first time I've been able to meet you all at Halborn in person and have some real face-to-face conversations. So thank you for being willing to chat. But just to get, the ball rolling, do you mind introducing yourself? Who are you? What are you up to? And what do you do at Halborn?
Okay, so my name is Mustafa, apparently. I work at Halborn as a offensive security engineer. I do security auditing for smart contracts, mainly on the Near blockchain, but I can also work on other projects from time to time, like Substrate and sometimes Solidity, like Ethereum smart contracts, but it's mainly focused on Near.
Awesome. So I gotta be completely honest, and I'm trying to be at least as truthful as I can. This whole Web3 world thing and blockchain technology is very new to me. I guess I come from the traditional cybersecurity space, but Near and Substrate even is voodoo to me. Can you kind of help fill in the gaps? How would you explain, or can you describe what Near and Substrate and all those other happen to be in your own words?
Okay, so I'm gonna be like mainly focusing on Near because that's my specialty.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Near is a blockchain, just like the other blockchains. It's just different in the sense that the Near organization and the creators of Near, they actually found some problems with the existing blockchains and they decided to fix them. So Ethereum has high gas costs. You have to pay a lot of money and a lot of Ethereum to actually get it to execute or go through. There are slow networks as well, networks that cannot process a lot of transactions per second. And there's block production as well. Block production in existing networks are not so fast as well. So they have solutions for this. They implemented stuff that would actually make their blockchain much faster, and so they have an edge to compete with the others, basically. So for Near, for example, they have block production of 1 second, so that's block time. A block is reproduced or created in 1 second, and block finality of 2 to 3 seconds, so the transaction is final, it takes place. The network can process up to 100,000 transactions per second. Yep, quite fast.
Yeah.
And it's just pretty fast and pretty cheap. Yeah, the gas costs. So it would cost around $0.01 to proceed with one transaction. So you would pay $0.01 dollars, which is nothing. If you're transferring $1,000 to someone, it's gonna be $999.99. So that's nothing, no cost.
That sounds awesome. Truthfully, and again, me just trying to, from the outside in, understand and learn more about this thing. At first, I thought, wow, Solana looks and sounds user-friendly. It seems, approachable, and the gas fees are low, the time and transitions are fast. It sounds like Near could very well be a contender, if not replace that in a way. Is that fair to say?
Actually, I think Solana is much cheaper than Near,
okay.
Transaction-wise at least. But Solana is friendly for users, but kind of hard to enter into as a developer.
Right.
And that's the point actually of Near. The other thing that they solve is the friendliness of the network or the protocol basically. So, and that's on both levels, the level of users that are using the network, just as users, transfer money, buying stuff, selling stuff, and all that stuff. And the other level, and that's the developers level. So, for example, addresses, account addresses are human readable. They are in English, basically. Nice. So it's like domain names. Basically, you know how to go to Google. You just type it in your browser, exactly the same way you would be sending money to other people. Or you would be calling a contract. If you're a developer, for example, you don't have to recognize all of the hash addresses in ETH and I think in Solana as well. However, in here, it's just English. So that's very friendly, and that's the main point of it. For developers, they support Rust and AssemblyScript, which compiles to WASM, which is kind of well known between web developers these days, which is called Web 2 in our perspective, and Web 3 is the blockchain stuff, the whole thing. So it's easy to get onboarded to it. Plus, they have the Academy for users. So the Academy is just a web app where you go and learn what an NFT are, what a token is, and all of that stuff. And then they have the university, which is a learning place for developers. and like the technical people. And you could also get certificates like a certified developer for Near, certified security analyst, and all that stuff.
Wow.
So they have a lot of support for learning, and the community is so like collaborative. And they have a YouTube channel that has a lot of information about all of this stuff. They have the whiteboard series, which is basically episodes where they meet head engineers on different protocols, and they discuss what the problems of their protocols are and how they would be solving that on the Near project.
Wow. That is super cool. I was not familiar with the whole academy and university stuff, so I really want to go take a look at that and see what I could get my hands dirty with. That's awesome.
Pretty interesting. And they also have that other thing called Near Jobs, which is basically if you have a Near account and you want to get like a friend onboarded or something, you can like send them a link. It's like referral links in normal web apps when you like refer someone and they get like $5 of bonus when they start. Exactly the same thing. They will claim whatever amount of Near you actually allow them, and then they get it like in their wallet right away, so they get started. So that's actually solving the only barrier I can see for normal users that get into Near, is that when you create a wallet, you have to confirm your email address, and then it's like Web 2, like normal Web 2. And then you have to get some Near into your account. Otherwise, it doesn't get created. So it has to be like funded with very little amounts, like cents. Like,
cool.
But in Near.
Awesome.
So that's the only hard part of it. So this solves this problem, but it requires that you know someone that is already a Near user. Another aspect of the friendliness of the network is that in Ethereum, for example, if you are looking for an explorer, like something that you would use to explore the transactions that have been created before, what contracts exist, what accounts exist, and their contents and their information, you would have to use Etherscan, which is a third-party software. And then if you want to create a wallet, you have to use MetaMask or similar, which is another third-party wallet as well. In Near, however, it's an ecosystem. It's like, think of it like the Apple ecosystem, where you have your phone connected to your iPad, your laptop, and you can move stuff around them. Exactly the same thing. So they have like the blockchain itself. They offer a wallet that is like completely embedded into this. You can use to pay for anything on the Near network. It works like in Web 2 terms like OAuth, maybe.
Nice.
Like when you log in with Google, you can actually log in with Near on any DeFi app or DApp.
Wow.
That has been built in Near. So you can just log in and start playing around, and you're authenticated with that basically. And it's all like similar to Web 2 at least. That's one thing. And there's like the Explorer, and the Explorer is basically Near's way of addressing the problem of having to look around for transactions and stuff. It's basically introduced by them as well. So the whole thing is like integral. You can use this and this and this, and don't have to go to someone else. So you can trust the apps.
I like that a lot because, again, as an outsider, just trying to figure out my way around this thing, when I heard, I have to use MetaMask, I'm like, okay, well, what the heck is that? What is it compared to all the others? Because I know there are others that might do the similar thing. Which is supposed to be the best one or the good one or the secure one to trust? So at least if it's in that ecosystem, or like, here is the environment where this is all tied in together, in my mind that sounds like a little bit more approachable, more user-friendly, and I like that. I totally want to go play with Near.
Yeah, but this actually kind of, like, it has a downside as well.
Yeah.
Like everyone else. The point here is that this could be, like, less decentralized than everything else. So it's technically in the control of the Near project, so you don't really trust all things about it. It could go wrong, could go down if the project goes down for any reason. So it has its up and downsides as well.
The decentralization is an interesting conversation, I think, and I've had with a few other team members, because maybe we didn't quite get that right when we put all the stuff on AWS or GCP,
Exactly,
right? But
yes.
I know it takes a significant amount of buy-in and commitment to put, some engine, some node on your own personal device. Is Near encouraging that? Is Near trying to push that? Or is it, hey, just come hang out with what we have?
Yeah, I think it's the same problem across all blockchains, to be honest, is that service providers are limited. Like, you have a bunch of big ones, and people usually tend to use those. Like when the AWS outage happened, like a lot of decentralized apps were actually down.
That's wild.
Proving that they were not actually decentralized at all.
Yeah.
So I think the best approach to this is that we have our own devices, as you just said, like individual devices and individual networks, not dependent on any like service provider. But yet you're going to have to depend on mobile carrier if you're using 4G or 5G, and you will have to depend on ISP if it's like a local network at home or something. So technically, you will always have to go through someone else before actually being decentralized.
Right.
That's a problem. It's an active problem that I don't think has a solution so far.
And that's all right. I think we are still kind of growing and figuring this out and,
Yep.
and you know, ironing out kinks as we do. Your perspective is offensive security engineer and trying to find vulnerabilities and flaws and weaknesses,
Sure.
etc. What does that look like in NEAR? Is it, whether it's something in Solidity or whether it's in Rust or whether it's in a language, or is it logic for an application, or have there been crazy, oh my goodness, the sky is falling vulnerabilities already? Or are there more on the way?
So
Lots to uncover, I'm sorry.
yeah, sure. I cannot like fully disclose stuff.
Totally.
For sure, because of customers, basically. But yeah, it's like Web 2, plus the edge of having visibility to the source code all of the time because of the open source nature of the blockchain, right? So you can spot logic issues like because you can see the code. So like logic issues are going to always exist because code is logic. So it's always going to be there, right? So you could have, a bad if statement that could cause something to happen that should not be happening, like by the logic of the application, by the intended logic at least. There are language specific stuff like overflows, underflows. Like Rust is memory safe, so you cannot write into other memories and start executing code like in C, for example. However, when an overflow happens, it panics, for example, like the code stops, right?
Yeah.
So this could lead to some denial of service attacks. Sometimes if you could like overflow some counter that is globally being used in the smart contract to maybe pay other users, loop over an array and do something, if this is going to actually hit a value that it should not be hidden, like a negative value or a very low value that it should not, by over or underflowing it or whatever, that means that this loop is not going to actually execute, and so this code is not going to work for anyone else. So that's a denial of service case, although you didn't execute code through it, right?
Yeah.
So there are sorts of vulnerabilities. There are specific vulnerabilities, like there's reentrancy, for example, that's only in Solidity as far as I know. But there's we found some race condition issues, for example, in smart contracts.
Wow.
Because they're like transacting across contracts, like having a cross contract call. That's done with a promise, like in JavaScript. So this is a promise, it waits for some response, right? So you could just execute the same transaction more than once in milliseconds, and they may go through like more than once. And so you have a risk condition there.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's, there are like language-specific vulnerabilities, platform-specific vulnerabilities, and the normal logic issues we usually find in normal web apps, mobile apps, and so on and so forth.
So forgive me, I'm going to end up picking on you just because you're the individual kind of at the last. I've had a couple conversations now with someone that might be an individual that can represent Ethereum or let's Terra, and okay, we got someone for Solana, and now with NEAR, right? What else is out there, and are they in the spotlight with what Halborn is working on, or are they in the spotlight for the community? Hey, that's still a project that's big and getting the attention of community members, whether it's in NFT space, whether it's in DeFi.
Okay, so I take that question as asking about other protocols.
If that's all right, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so there are other protocols like Cardano, for example. There is Substrate as well, as we mentioned before. Substrate is the blockchain for Polkadot, like the dot coin, basically.
Okay.
And they are interesting because they have their own vulnerability classes as well. Like, for example, normally in a normal blockchain transaction, if any condition fails, the whole thing reverts. Like all changes that you have already made to the state, like maybe you have updated someone's balance and then there is a condition after that that doesn't satisfy. So you actually revert the whole transaction, right? And that means that the state that you have changed is going to not be touched. It's going to be like get back to whatever it was. However, in Substrate, that's not the case. So if you make a state transition, like change someone's balance, update their information, whatever, and there's a condition that doesn't meet the criteria and the transaction reverts, this information is going to still be changed. So that's like something that has to be checked. The state changes have to always take place like towards the end of the function or the function call basically. So all of checks have actually been have passed before actually hitting this point. That's like one thing, and we get projects for that probably. That's mostly some project management stuff really, so I don't really know how many projects or what's thriving more than the other as a blockchain.
Gotcha. Is there anything that you feel like, people should know about, or hey, is there anything that you would like to discuss? I don't know. Is there some sort of vulnerability or some flaw that makes your eyes light up, or gets you going when you see it?
Missing access controls. That's one thing. Like I could be admin or the owner of the contract. So
totally.
That's definitely one thing. There's like some specific scenarios that are not vulnerabilities by themselves, but could lead to bad situations. For example, cross-contract calls in Near, as we said, are promises. Like they are a promise and then you wait for a response. However, if that promise fails for any reason, like the contract doesn't exist or the execution of the function in the contract didn't continue for any number of reasons, the whole transaction doesn't revert. Like it gets executed in the next lines and next lines and next lines until the whole function just finishes executing. So if you do not, as a developer, if you do not like have a then statement where you validate the promise result and make sure that it has passed, you may get into trouble. For example, if your own contract is like registering users, takes some tokens and then calls another contract to deposit these tokens for this user, or like it passes a boolean to that contract that this user has been registered, right? If this fails for any reason, the whole transaction is going to still continue. So you could be in a situation where someone registers, but their tokens are not registered. So this could be a corner case that would get the contract unusable for them, for example, and they would not be able to register again because they are registered in the contract. However, the other contract call did not pass. So they did not get their tokens, but the actual code in your own contract has passed, right? Wow. So there must be like explicit reverting logic when the cross-contract calls actually fail. So that's one interesting corner case that we found.
Gotcha. Is there a semblance of improvement, or is there some like trajectory where, okay, cool, we are seeing the community, the culture start to be a little bit more cognizant of security and vulnerabilities and weaknesses, or is it still a little bit break fix in mentality?
Yeah.
Whack-a-mole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's still not so mature, to be honest, because like the blockchain is only 2 years old,
right?
Like less than that,
right? Yeah.
Even. So the whole thing is new. Like we have, I think Near has less than 300 projects altogether on the blockchain, so it's not that big. The TVL is approaching $500 million. Half of that is with Rift Finance, which is one of the biggest projects on Near. So it's still maturing. So developers are getting to learn how it works in the first place. So they probably don't have the priority to learn about security. They need to get it to work in the first place and then start looking into other stuff. However, the projects themselves, they care about security so much because still it's money at stake. Right? And user privacy and information that could, although is public by default because it's a blockchain, still could be leaked in some way that's not intentional, right? So projects as a whole care about security, I would say, like for the most part. But still, developers are still learning. I wouldn't say they are like ignorant or ignoring that. They're just not having the time yet to actually delve into it and get used to it. These days, you can hardly see a Web2 developer that doesn't know what a SQL injection is, right? But for now, Web3 developers are still learning how to develop in the first place. So I would say it's going to take its time.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. That's okay. I mean, in my mind, right? Hey, it's we're figuring it out. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Well, hey, thanks so much, Mustafa. I mean, this has been lovely. It's been eye-opening for me to kind of get an idea on, hey, what the heck Near is, and for one thing, how accessible it is. I'm serious. I want to go play with it now. And just kind of seeing what you're looking for when you're doing an audit, what you're up to at Halborn. So thank you for giving me that perspective. I hope that was useful for anyone else listening in, because it certainly was for me. So thanks again for chatting, my friend.
Thank you so much.